Ladies and gentlemen, Vincent Payen. How you doing, Vincent?
I'm excellent. Thank you for having me, Tim.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for carving out the time. Seems like things are a little bit busy these days over at HomeX.
You bet. We're very lucky to be in a pretty essential space, regardless of what's happening in the world. Things have been busy in a rapidly changing landscape of home services.
I think a lot of our listeners kind of followed the Chicago business tech scene, so they've probably seen a little bit of the PR recently about HomeX. But let's just start there. So what is HomeX? What's the platform? What kind of problem are you solving?
Yeah, so HomeX is a home service platform connecting consumers and service providers, and really aimed at making home services radically better. And the idea here is that for the past since the beginning, I would say home services have been about rolling a truck. When actually we very much believe in that the exchange should be an exchange of solution. Rolling a truck is just a way to solve a problem, but not the only way. And our platform has been developed to enable customers to get the right solution, whether it is remotely or physically, and get service providers to connect with them, work more efficiently, get the jobs diagnosed up front so they can make sure they bring the right part to solve the job the first time, and overall creating what we believe is a more efficient home services experience solution for both sides of the equation.
Okay, so just so I understand this correctly, and I just moved, we talked about this in our previous call when we were prepping for this conversation. I moved in May. I'm a new homeowner. I think it's our forever home. I'm not sure. We'll see how the neighbors are. But just to get somebody to come check out the plumbing or paint or check out the HVAC or any of this stuff, it's an arduous process. There's ways to find people, but I have trouble having people call me back or diagnose the issue, or there's a lot of friction around hey, I got to come check it out first, and then I'll come back 2 or 3 days later when I kind of find the part. And I've dealt with this before as a renter and kind of otherwise. I know the pain points, but when you put yourself in your customer shoes, what are some other ancillary issues that they're having in their current state and those problems that you're trying to solve?
Yeah, so I think there are a few, you mentioned some of them, right? The access to service is harder and harder because there's more and more demand, less and less, supply, if we want to use marketplace talk, and by supply, I mean, technician capacity. And that means that by nature, it takes longer to get help. There is, less transparency, less efficiency. And, as a customer, ultimately what you need is you need to understand what your problem is, which is actually a first hurdle, because if you're, buying an iPhone, you know exactly what you're trying to achieve. When it comes to home services, you're not sure what you're buying, because you're not really sure what your problem is.
I have no idea what I'm looking at. I am probably a use case for this. Go on. Sorry to cut you off.
And no problem. And unlike when you're trading goods, here every job is different. Every toilet unclog job is really different. That creates a anxiety and lack of control for the customer. You're not sure what your problem is. You're not sure what to expect. You're not sure that your thermostat blinking is going to mean just replacing the thermostat for $100 or replacing your full AC system for $5,000. So number one for us is to put the customer back in control of the journey by starting with before we try to solve anything, let's understand your problem. To do that, we use a mix of online content that we provide for free on HomeX.com and live technicians who are licensed, people who've usually been in the field for 10, 20, 30 years, who actually remotely start having discussion about what's the problem, what are the symptoms, what's happening. And from there, either it's something that can be fixed remotely, or it cannot be fixed remotely, but they will give a diagnosis, say, hey, that's what really the issue is, that's what you can expect. these are the parts you will need. Eventually, like put them in touch with a local company, or send it ourselves. And like the third piece, which was a bit of a surprise for us, which was really interesting, was people who are just like, they don't necessarily have an issue. They just want to understand like what a job may be. Like, like, hey, like I just moved to a new house. Like, where's the boiler? Like, is it safe if I turn on or off the breaker that's by the boiler? I had no idea. Like, first time, um, and this like education and learning and like advice giving has been very powerful in creating empowerment, in getting people comfortable with home services experiences that historically have been pretty black box, unsure of the quality. Like, is the right thing happening? Do I really need to do all that work? And give them the choice and transparency. And I think when you start there, like the experience get transformed, because like technicians, people who go to people's home, the vast majority are actually really good at what they do. Like, like they're licensed, like there's of course like outliers here and there, but like the issue has not been that's the guy in your home actually like know how to fix the clock or like to change the thermostat. It has been the whole process that's unsettling and worrying for customers. And I think like bringing control and clarity to that has been very positive and a game changer. And I would add, like on the provider side, there's also a problem, right? Very, weirdly, home services, one of the industries, there's actually more demand than supply. So like the most technician service companies, they don't really always need you as a customer. They're usually like fully booked, right? So the jobs have to be efficient. Like they have X hours a day to serve people, and us doing upfront diagnosis, helping saying, okay, like that's the issue. You're gonna have to replace a condenser on an air conditioner of brand X. To not do any sponsorship through your show. Now they know like what parts to bring, which guy or girl to send to make sure the person has the right skills, and they fix things the first time. And like they have more time during the day to serve more customers and do more jobs. So like this focus on solution diagnosis powered by technology and human beings, is like fundamentally transforming the experience.
I'm picturing, okay, so my HVAC isn't working, it's flashing, it's got a code 658 is coming up. And I'm like, what is this? I'm reading the manual. I need some support here. I could get on the HomeX platform, get linked up with a solution consultant, diagnoser, potentially could walk me through the problem. Oh, I know that. They just need to do this versus that. Or let me connect you with a vetted, screened technician that's part of our platform. Get that scheduled. We'll kind of take care of it for you.
That's right. So first, like if you do have the manual of your water heater or boiler, like you're a better man than I am. Yes, like you come to HomeX, you can search your issue, directly connect your technicians, and there's no between step. Like we connect people directly to licensed technicians based on the issue that they have. So electricity, plumbing, HVAC, and from there, free diagnosis. And based on diagnosis, the customer can decide, okay, help me fix remotely if we believe that's the case, in which case it becomes a paying session that goes from 20 to $50. And if we cannot fix it remotely, then like we help find a local provider. So we send someone.
I love it.
Good.
I love it. I love it. I read some stats on a recent article on your $90 million raise earlier this year, $500 billion market opportunity. I mean, there's a lot of homes. There's a lot of homes being serviced out there. There's a lot of boutiques, small businesses, one man, one woman shops, kind of business owners out there. Huge market. I mean, this could be, talk about like tackling a problem, but at the same time, where do you start? It sounds very much like a marketplace business. Like you need the technicians. It sounds like you have some technicians on staff that could help with some issues over the phone, but this is a marketplace business. Marketplace businesses are hard. We'll come back to HomeX in a second, but let's talk about your experience at eBay. You were there for over a decade. When I think of a marketplace business, like eBay is the first thing that kind of comes to mind. Can you talk a little bit about some of the stuff that you'd worked on there, and then maybe how you've applied some of those learnings over to solving the HomeX problem?
Yeah, so I was like fortunate to spend the last before HomeX like over a decade at eBay, where I did like fall in love with marketplaces, started product management, moved to buyer experience strategy, then ran eBay's consumer business, and then finished like looking after structured data and platforms. So I was incredibly lucky to see all the sides of a modern technology business. But I think above all, like a fantastic school of how a marketplace should function, and the good and the bad, right? eBay is like a marvelous company that has that is doing fantastic things every day, enabling people to be entrepreneurial, to create businesses, to create jobs, enabling the small guys to compete with the big guys, enabling customers to find the unique things use a product. I believe it's very much the sweet spot of eBay, the more efficient way than anywhere else. And so I think a few things I would say. Like number one, over these 10 years, as you can imagine, like big competition with Amazon, I think the learning there were really on the level of intermediation that the marketplace needs. eBay was started a totally free market. Like it was a platform. We just put people together in a platform and they connect, and whatever happens.
Whatever you want to put on there, you can put on there. We'll see if you buy it.
and then so eBay over time evolve and go, okay, that doesn't fully work, right? Because when there are issues, the bad experience is too penalizing for the platform, even if it's rare. So we need to manage the marketplace and have a bit more of an active role in it. And say eBay starting to put buyer protection in place to manage payments, to hold funds until make sure people were happy. And Amazon on the other hand was it's fully intermediated. You will pay us, we will pay the seller, we guarantee everything, and we will manage the shipping and the warehousing and etc. And to a point where it gets very close to direct retail experience for most of the head items, and then they use the marketplace to cover the tail in a very efficient way. The two models are interesting. There are pluses and minuses on each side. When I looked at home services and the sensitivity to the experience and the inconsistency that exists today, I think the hybrid model that Amazon is using felt more appropriate to deliver the step-changing experience that we're after. I think there are lots of platforms out there that do connections without having skin in the game, that end up really being lead gen platforms, which are not satisfying customers. And in a spirit of differentiation and pushing the ball forward, as much as it's harder to build, we believed in a model where we had more control over the experience, where we would do some of the things ourselves. We would of course leverage third-party providers to provide some physical service, but and we're still trying to find the sweet spot. I don't think it's a copy paste from commerce of goods, just because of the nature of services, because it's not really easy to productize, and we're maybe if we talk in a year, we'll give you a slightly different answer. But yeah,
I'd love to. So I got to imagine, being product leader, data analytics leader at eBay, and I've never worked in a company like that. I got to imagine the amount of data at your fingertips is it's got to be nuts, right? So then now you're looking at the home services industry that's fragmented. Like where do you start to analyze how we should build the platform? How do we establish the marketplace on both sides of the marketplace when the data might not be as readily available in the form that you need it?
So, a few things. I would say, like, number one, yes, like like there are years of my career when I spent a year trying to move under 50 basis points of something. Like, like if we make checkout like 25 basis points better conversion, we're changing the world. And like, which, at the scale of a business like eBay can, like is not
Huge.
correct. Like now in a world where, like, if I don't see the difference in like an A/B test over 3 days, like this is not big enough. Like, like it has to be see from space change. So I think like that's one of the difference, which is a bit is liberating and healthy. Like, like making sure you work on the right things. Because like you have everything to create has to be has to be very clear. I think the one of the difficulties is, like, to your point, like there's no data as a baby company, and like I'll talk in a minute about stuff we've done to scale and get there quickly. But there's also no real benchmark when you try to do something that hasn't been done. Like like if I like work at an insurance company and I look at another insurance company, even they're better than me, like it's a clear benchmark, right? And like, in mature experiences, the innovation or like your guide, like your North Star, can unfortunately sometimes become like, well, who's the best at what we do? Not necessarily, well, who's doing something different, or should we be something different? And like the measure of success, and like what we should achieve, like becomes much more on you to define. Like, like for us, like no one was doing virtual home services. So it's not like we could look at someone and say, oh, they're doing that well, how could you do it better? It was, all right, like we need to find the good, better, and like perfect bar. And so like I think to me that comes back to the team and hiring the right people who have the like the level of self-criticism, energy, entrepreneurship to just like wake up and think about, well, like should we be doing differently? And and being okay with with failing and making the mistakes and trying something quickly and moving on. But so I think like that's one, like the second person question on marketplace and data. So a few key things. Like I had two big fears as we are, like think about the thing that wake you up at night as an entrepreneur. Two things worried me. Like one, how do we get big enough, quick enough, so we can actually learn and have signal on things. And our answer to that was to invest heavily in content generation by machines, and build lots of traffic as quickly as possible. So I think next month we should pass like the bar of like the 1 million monthly visitors on HomeX.
Wow.
In a year and a half. So like that's it was not to make money. Like we're not monetizing directly that traffic. Like it was really just, I want as many people as I can on the site so I can then learn as quickly as I can.
You needed the data set first, it sounded like.
Exactly. So and yeah, now we're at a point where we have like 1 million people a month who like come to homex.com. We can run tests, we can understand it. And again, like if I was looking for, we were looking as a team for basis points, like yeah, it's still small, or like like hey, let's run a 2-month A/B test and like argue on the results. Like at this point, like where it has to be things that you see from space, and like like we're not going to argue about p-values and stuff like that. Like it's just like do we have signal that it's better? And the more we go, the easier it gets.
So this is very much like when I think of eBay, like the regional location aspect, because of mail service and FedEx and UPS, kind of is a non-existent variable to a certain degree. And when I think of what you're doing, like the technicians have to be local, the virtual support doesn't need to be local, but then the homeowner lives in a certain location in the country. Did you look at this as more like a like kind of like how an Uber, like a Spot Hero scaled and said like, all right, we need to start at a pinpoint and we need to hammer the supply as much as we can, get enough technicians, screen them, then go to the, like, start running tests, drive people to the website in a specific location? Or did you think about it a different way to get to that data set that you're talking about?
Yeah, so again, like a year from now, I may give you a different answer, but like that was my second problem and question. Like, how do we, deadlifting a marketplace is incredibly hard. Like we've seen, Uber, drive empty cars in like when they were trying to activate the city just to make sure they had enough supply, and then like try to balance the demand. And like I wanted to find like a different way of doing that was more financially efficient, partly because like I really didn't want to give away like all of the company in the early years because of the financial inefficiencies of starting a marketplace, which are big. So we had these, with this question, like, do we need to do geo by geo? Do we, how do we balance supply and demand? And like here's what we did. On supply and demand, we decided to actually build them independently. So we said, all right, like, like supply. So we want people on our platform. We want service providers on our platform to whom we can push physical jobs to if we cannot fix them remotely. These people are really busy, as we discussed. Like, like there's more demand than supply, like overall in the industry. So, like just calling them and saying, hey, do you want our jobs, is actually not going to work and be efficient. So we had to find another way of, like bringing in the platform. And here what we did is build our, like B2B, the B2B side of our business that powers contractors with online booking, scheduling, live chat, like automation of their customer connections, I would say. Like even before talking about pushing them jobs, just let's create something that adds value for them. And over the past 2-3 years, we've managed, we now have like thousands and thousands of contractors across the country on the platform, and most of them, like, we haven't even told them, hey, we would like to push.
We could give you business.
Like,
wow, interesting.
So, and on the consumer side, my worry was like, well, like, what if we cannot fix it remotely? People are going to be upset. And I was wrong there. What we learned is that when we can fix it remotely, it's magical. If we just give expert advice and diagnosis and say you need to find someone, like locally to do it, and if we don't have anyone in your area, people were fine. They were like, that was really huge help. Thank you. Like, and I think, maybe I was, I think I was putting the bar too high. I was just like overly worried about the edge case, and like I was trying to make like the perfect thing. But like, in the process, I missed the fact that actually just keep getting halfway at the right price, or just for customer acquisition, is actually like enough. And like, we're building it, and then we tell these people, hey, good news, now we can actually book services for you in your area as well, but they're already customers and they're happy. So to answer your question, we did not then worry too much about, okay, like, do we need to do one geo and manage like supply and demand, like really complicated? We say like, hey, like, we're going to go all out on remote home services, which is by definition universal. I mean, like, I think we had customers in Canada from Canada on week 2. Like, we didn't even know how to take payments from Canada. We're like, oh, it has to be free because we can't.
At least you got the data points. That's nice. Well, everybody needs like an Uncle Jack that was a former carpenter, that's a handyman, that can answer anything, that's always willing to help out. And I think that goes a long way. And I think, that kind of goes to like the folks at Home Depot can at least walk you through a potential solution, or give you options, or whether you buy or not, like at least you kind of walk away with something. And I think that kind of goes a long way. That's super interesting. Now let's talk about, the growth has been nuts. I started my business in July of 2018. You started this in May, at least for LinkedIn, of 2018. And I think I saw just under 200 employees, hundreds of % growth, kind of year over year, thousands of contractors on the platform. Okay, where are you at today? And You just raised a bunch of money. What's next for HomeX over the next couple of years?
Yeah, so I think I joined the company about like a year after it got like it was born, but like so the company is a bit older than my tenure, but yeah, no, like we've been very fortunate. Like we have now like 300 something employees on the technology side. Yeah, like I think we've like we're doubling every 6 months at this rate in terms of employees. Like the B2B side has been growing 5x like year over year for the past 3 years. So and we're on track to keep that going, which is like really exciting, and we're getting into a size where it gets tougher, right? Like at like, oh great, like you have like like $100,000 of ARR, like great, you did it like 5 times. Like when you're in like the 10 million plus, like keeping the pace is tough. So so I think we've been very happy being able to do there. And then the consumer side, we like as I told you, I made the point to bet on the organic traffic on the consumer side, not wanting to play the SEM, buying customers, like just like like kind of like more classical way of like building demand. And what's been interesting is that as we did that, something we didn't think of, like the B2B2C, so home warranty companies came to us and say, "Ooh, what you guys are doing is really cool. Like, could we talk?" And we hadn't, thought at that point of the telemedicine model, where actually like the health, like insurance companies have an incentive in giving that to their customers because like or the clients, because like it actually saves them claims. And so over the past like year, 6 months, like you may have seen some are public, some are not public yet. Like, and Allstate is a public one. We started working with partners in the home warranty and home insurance field, smart devices, to actually do like telemedicine for your home. For in home warranty, like we usually save like, let's say like like 10 to 20% of truck calls. So like 1 connect out of 10, where like the home warranty company would have had to send someone, we actually managed to fix it remotely. And if it's not solved remotely, like they have a diagnosis, which makes it more efficient. So to answer your question, like the raise is partly to like supercharge these pieces of the business that we didn't even do it, like we're not planning on growing, and that are like organically getting like tons of traction. So it means hiring technicians, hiring engineers, like the from a platform stability, like you can like imagine that like the game gets really different, like based on your partners, based on who you're powering, based on the volume that you get. And of course, like a big investment, which I think will always be the case on the science and diagnosis side. Like we're very lucky to have some of the best folks in the world in Cambridge, England, some of whom have created early version of what Amazon bought, became Alexa, who are building diagnosis engine for home services, and like a knowledge graph that powers everything we do across. So we can be efficient, so we can give self-serve diagnosis, ask the right question, like like link parts to jobs, to skills, like and link symptoms to like likely outcomes and issues, and make it more and more self-serve, more and more efficient. So we move from a world from today 100% of the interactions go to our licensed technicians. As we advance, I would love to see like that to become like 90, 80, 70, and like some of them the people will be able to self-serve. Some of them, like someone who's trained but not licensed, can actually use this knowledge to guide someone and ask the right question, a bit like the nurse before the doctor, to add more efficiency and to make the whole system work better and better.
Well, I think like it's such a big ecosystem. just thinking about it as I have a problem, I need a solution to that problem, then I kind of go on with my day and I wait for another problem to kind of happen. Like you're right, there's insurance providers, there's like benefits of preventative maintenance. We talked about this when we talked last. Like I'd love a solution because I'm not very handy and I don't know how any of this stuff works. If I could just outsource everything at some point and just get an efficient way to do that. Like there's so many things that this could kind of evolve to, which is super exciting. Switching gears a little bit, I thought this was interesting, and I'm a recruiting talent guy. Everyone knows kind of my business and where I come from. It's very well known and documented that the skilled trades industry and manufacturing environments, electricians, plumbers, like the 18-year-olds that are graduating high school that grew up on an iPhone, they're not necessarily jacked about kind of getting into the industry, and it's causing kind of massive supply and demand dynamics. How are you able to staff up like your internal team to make sure that you're able to support all these requests that come in?
Yeah, no, like I think I saw like last month, like the job openings in the Northeast for licensed technicians were up like 30 or 40% year over year, and they were not getting filled. Which is which is like a huge risk for the industry overall. Like it's a bit like, there's like a maybe a global warming equivalent tipping point of at one point, like, like no matter what you do, like there's going to be a big problem. We're getting close to that in home services. As like there is like more people who retire with lots of knowledge, and like not enough people who enter the trades, or not enough efficiency. So like that's why part of our mission with remote help, like having one person be able to help like 30 or 40 a day versus 3 or 4, is kind of an attempt to buy ourselves time until we can hopefully like get into the world where like these jobs are sexy again, and make them sexy. Like then like these like maybe like some people would not want to be in a truck all day long. Maybe they would love to be like like a licensed technician that helps people remotely. And I think like technology is hopefully going to make these jobs cooler and cooler, even on the field. Like there's something pretty magical about fixing stuff. But anyways, like for us, like it was a challenge, and what we focus for remote technicians. And I would say like it was really important for us at least like at this stage, that like the remote technicians are our employees. The physical service, as I told you, like some of it we can do, some of it we can't, because of the coverage, and it has to be a marketplace for the remote technicians, because it was so new, because there's no benchmark. Like we don't know if someone's going to be good at it or not. Like we had to at least control the experience right now. I hope that we'll marketplace it in the future as we scale. But our prime target were injured or retiring technicians. And there is like this entire population of fantastic people who are so knowledgeable, who have spent 20, 30, 40 years, 50 years in a truck. And at one point, like who cannot or do not want to be like, crawling in an attic, like when it's, like 100 degrees, anymore, the outcome, like without an outlet like we're providing, is like, the knowledge is kind of lost. I mean, they will have their friends, neighbors, etc. But like, like there's no way to kind of recycle this talent and this capacity. So, hiring technicians, with that profile is what we've done. And it's been we have like, fantastic story. You should talk to some of them if you want, or like anyone should go to homex.com and start a session and talk some of these guys who are just like fantastic, and they're so happy to be able to keep helping people. So I think it's a true. I'm not like a recruiting professional like you, but like to me it felt like a great like win-win in terms of like talent utilization.
It's a very creative way to solve that problem, and it's all across. I mean, you're a tech guy, right? There's like, how do you get software engineering talent these days, right? Or how, like, we'll get to Chicago in a second, but like I've talked to folks that are like, okay, we need to open up like really awesome, sexy housing for recent college grads to where they can hang out with each other, and like anything they need, video games, like pinball machine, whatever. Why? So we can keep that talent in Chicago and we can hire people, because it is really hard. We cannot accomplish our goals unless we hire people. So I just think that's a really creative, like win-win-win for everybody there. So you spent some time in Canada, you spent some time San Francisco, looks like Chicago. You could have started this anywhere. Like why Chicago? What are some of the benefits of, creating this awesome organization here?
Yes. So a few things. So one, like Michael Warner, like with whom I co-founded the company, is from Chicago, and there was like like a marker there that was
Sure.
interesting. Like when we had the discussion, like so I I love Silicon Valley. I spent lots of my life there. I also think that um, like my dream was to like mix like the entrepreneurship and innovation that we can see in the valley, but like with like some kind of like pragmatism that we can have outside of Silicon Valley. Like not everyone has an electric car, not everyone has 5G. Like
Hmm.
sometimes like when you leave, and like, I don't know if you live there or not, like you it's a bit of a bubble, and like you kind of forget like regular life or regular sometimes like people problems, and like so being outside of Silicon Valley, given like that we're doing a business that was very human, very very real in nature, was kind of appealing as a test, right? Like I thought it was good to have that perspective and try to mix both. I think I've been blown away by the talent that we've been able to find in Chicago. Uh, like like I mean, we're lucky. Like lots of big tech companies are also doing that, so it kind of like creates this incestuous pool of like now people who are like coming here who can afford a house versus like having to rent a one bedroom for like crazy amounts like in Silicon
Totally.
Valley, and
Yep.
have a great life. And I think like the more like tech companies doing like cool interesting cutting edge stuff like we can bring in Chicago, I think like the better it is. Like like the best thing that happened to Lyft was Uber. Like very much believe like like sometimes like like competition is healthy, and there's so much to do, and it's like such a great place to be that I think I'm very happy that we have a base here, and that we'll keep expanding it.
I love it. I love it. Obviously, I'm a Chicago technology business advocate. The more companies and businesses that are thriving, people are gonna flock here if we continue to do what we're doing here in
Yeah.
Chicago. But HomeX is well on its way. If you haven't checked out HomeX before, you got a problem with your home, check out HomeX. Obviously, HomeX is hiring, so if you're interested in the company, definitely reach out to them. Vincent, if folks want to reach out because they're a consumer, they're looking for a job with HomeX, where can they find you? Where can they find HomeX?
Yeah, homex.com. Whether you need help with your home, want to try a remote assist session, get in touch with us on the B2B side, or get in touch with me directly. We're still like a baby company, so like like your email should make your way to me. And yes, like don't please reach out. And Tim, thanks so much for the time. It was like really an honor to be chatting with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Always a pleasure. You're on to great things, and we will have you back within a year or two to kind of see all the progress from there. And I
And to
will
do
call
all my
HomeX
mistakes.
next time something breaks, no doubt. Vincent, thanks so much for the time. We'll talk soon.
Thank you. Bye.